If I believe there's a reason for this pain I'm going through, if I believe that leaving me was all that you could do, if I believe that I can feel you by my side, I'll make it through the night. If I believe that time will teach me how to find my way, if I believe that broken hearts grow stronger every day, if I believe that now you're dancing across the sky, I just might get by. 'Cause I lost my way when I lost you, and now I'm wondering what I'm gonna do. Help me be strong, 'cause it all feels so wrong without you now. Won't you help me through somehow? Get me through somehow. If I believe that in my dreams I'll always feel your touch, if I believe that memories won't always hurt this much, if I believe that I will see your face again, I can wait till then. If I believe I'll hold you in my arms again, I can wait. I know that I can wait. I can wait till then. I can wait till then.
Welcome to the Somerville Overcoming Addiction show. My name is Joanne,
Hi, I'm Judy.
and we have the green nurses tonight. We have Sherry and Dale here, and they're going to talk to us about the marijuana facility and actually what they do and why you've done it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Do you want to give them a little history about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Sherry Tutkus, and I'm a registered nurse. And I've been in the nursing industry for over 30 years, and I got really sick in 2012. And the sickness was pretty devastating. I went from very high functioning to not functioning at all. And I, developed autoimmune, chronic pain, wasn't absorbing nutrients, and started on, a trajectory of taking a lot of medications, following traditional medicine. I've been a nurse. I also follow holistic healing modalities, and what I was doing wasn't working. And I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and they were adding one pill to another pill. Before you knew it, I was on so many, different types of medications to manage the pain, and it wasn't managing the pain. And so the point, my mental, status started to really be affected, became extremely depressed, anxious, agoraphobic, panic attacks. I couldn't take care of my children. And I wanted to die. I felt like I didn't have anything to live for, although I knew I did. And I have enjoyed marijuana recreationally in the past, and I knew how to use that, but I didn't know how to use it as medicine. And so I knew that it was working for so many people, so I decided to embark upon the journey of using cannabis as a tool to help me get out of what wasn't working. And so basically, I went through the process of getting my card and studying and learning and going to the dispensary and the trial and error. And it took me a very, very long time to figure out how to use cannabis as a medicine so I could function in the world, get my life back, take care of my kids, take care of myself, and start working again. And so what I thought of when I started to get better was, I wish I had someone that could have taken my hand and could have guided me on that path to where I am now. And now I can't keep my mouth shut. Cannabis is not an end-all, be-all. It is not the one thing, the magic pill. It is one component of whole health. Total health care can include cannabis, and it can be used in a way medicinally to help people with chronic illness, chronic pain. We could go on and on and on. So that's why I developed this program. And so what we are is we're a home health consulting agency. We do whole health teaching. We use cannabis as a tool. We guide patients through the process of getting their card. We do consultations, education, care plans, and ongoing continuity of care. And we work with a plethora of patients, from pediatrics to geriatrics to veterans to children to hospice patients to cancer patients to patients that are coming off of opioids, the patients that are alcoholics. I mean, it is the gamut. And there isn't one person we haven't been able to help use cannabis as a tool.
No.
So I'm going to introduce, I'm
No,
sorry.
No, go. I wanted to know
Sure.
how do you feel about people saying it's like the gateway?
Basically, what that is there's so much information and misinformation, and the gateway theory is a misinformed statement. And the reason why is because of the new studies that have come out, and Dale has a ton of information on the statistics of that, but also because of experience of what people have done as they've used this as a tool and how they've educated us. Our patients tend to be our biggest educators because it's the interaction that we have with them that helps us to guide them and them to guide us, because we use a shared decision making tool. And basically, if a patient isn't going to participate in their recovery and they're being told what to do, the chances of them being successful goes down. Shared decision making with the patient increases the chance of success, because what you're doing is you're reaching to them in a level and you're working together as a team. It's a journey. And that's what I feel is missing from a lot of programs, and that's one of the things that we're incorporating in the Green Nurse program is whole health. And I know it sounds hokey, but I'm going to say it anyways. It's bio, psycho, social, spiritual healing. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And so we have Dale Buckman. She's a board-certified nurse practitioner, and she is our medical director at the Green Nurse Group.
Welcome.
Thank you. So how I got into this, well, I was working in internal medicine as a nurse practitioner, and every day it was phone call after phone call of people coming in. I want a refill of this, and I would look at these medications and I would ask, how long have you been on this medication? I think it's time we reevaluate. So people being on antidepressants, anti-anxieties, sleep medications for years and years and years and never coming off of them. And it's really difficult after so many years to get people off. You really have to wean them off. So as fate had it, I had to take a 6-month leave. I was happy to do it because I needed to have a surgery. It was going to take a long recovery. And when it was time to go back, I just wasn't ready for a full-time. So I answered an ad for a clinic that was functional medicine. And it turned out to be a cannabis clinic. So I went in for an interview, and when I realized it wasn't me, I've never tried it before, I had my own stigma. I thought I was going to have all these young kids coming in with, the funny hair and all the
Funny clothes.
I didn't know what to expect.
It was so out of the box for you.
So I interviewed and I said, no, this isn't for me. I know nothing about this. And she said, just come in for a day or a half day to sit with the doctor that you're going to replace. And I said, let me think about it. So I did. And the first day I was there, I sat in the waiting room waiting for the doctor, sat next to a man in his 70s. And he started telling me his life story. He didn't know who I was. I was just another patient as far as he knew. And he said he had had 11 back surgeries. He was hooked on OxyContin. His wife hated him. He was retired. His children weren't speaking to him because he was addicted to this drug that was prescribed for his pain. 11 surgeries. He had been coming to the clinic. This was his second year. And he said after 6 months, they completely weaned me off the OxyContin. He said, my retirement now is great. It's just like I thought it would be. I can play with my grandchildren. My wife loves me again. We're traveling. And they gave me my life back. And I thought to myself, oh, give me a break. There must be a hidden camera here somewhere. Somebody's playing a trick on me. I thought, for real, this is a true story. So I went into went in with one of the providers, and person after person coming in, it was not the exact same story, but something very similar. And they were just normal people like you and I. Everybody's, and I thought, they're still looking around, very suspicious, thinking there's got to be something here. And I said, I want to try switching to another provider, because there were 3 in the office. They couldn't possibly have hidden cameras in every room. And every single one was the same story. People coming off pharmaceuticals. They've given me my life back. I kept hearing that over and over. Are they giving me hope? And I thought, oh my gosh, I have to work here. And then I started, and it's been the most gratifying work of my life. Hearing patient stories of recovery and coming off pharmaceuticals is just incredible.
Yeah.
So it was just
when you went to school to be a doctor, no kind of training whatsoever.
Absolutely not, but
For for opiates either, or
well, there's a big push now for to take more and more classes on prescribing for the opiates and what to look for. And of course, now they're prescribing all these anti-epileptics, antidepressants, sleep medications, benzodiazepines, and we have
seizure medicines.
And we've unintentionally created a whole new addiction.
Yes,
we're not talking about it yet.
And we're not
but
yet.
we are going to be someday, maybe 20 years down the road.
I don't even think it's going to be that long, because I think that people have already said something about the benzos, about the gabapentin.
Well, and that's what they did with me. In my personal experience, was that having chronic pain that wasn't working, the medicines they were giving weren't working, they would add something else to see if it would work better. So before you knew it, not only was I on the Percocet, but I was on the Cymbalta and the prednisone and the Ativan and the Xanax and the Neurontin, right?
They love giving you the Neurontin.
But the Neurontin.
They love doing that.
And I have patients come in, and they'll say, I'm just feeling really, I'm not clear. I feel like I feel like I have early signs of dementia. And I'll say, did you bring a medication list? And I'll look, and sure enough, that's going to be there. And then late down the road, after they discontinue, I don't discontinue medications written by another provider, but I make suggestions so they can bring it back to their prescriber, and then they can wean off of these things slowly. Yeah. And they always come back and say, you were right, it was that. I am so much more clear now. Yeah. So there are side effects, a lot of side effects, and sometimes you don't realize that it's from a certain medication, a pharmaceutical, because they don't talk about side effects when they write these prescriptions, and a lot of times they don't talk about that your brain is going to change as soon when you start taking them, and it's going to take some time to wean off of them with more side effects. And oftentimes they'll give another prescription for something else to help with those side effects. So before you know it, we're talking polypharmacy.
Right? And then when you look at cannabis, you look at
mean
cannabinoid.
What do you mean
polypharmacy means that they're treating you with multiple drugs for one thing. They just keep adding.
So 5 or more drugs, and often we see a long list of medications.
Well, usually because you can't sleep, you can't wake up, and then you can't focus.
So then they're on Adderall.
3 pills,
right? So now they give them a stimulant.
The Zoloft.
And then at night they have to put them to sleep.
Yeah.
And then they get anxiety. Oh, well, too many stimulants.
Yeah.
Our systems are fried.
And not only that, it's like everybody knows when everybody gets their pills too. It's like I've seen it's absolutely crazy what goes on, but yet
Yeah.
they're still
They're oblivious to it.
yeah, they're still doing it.
Yeah.
Mhm. And you know, we just don't have a system set up. What are providers going to do?
Mm-hmm.
So we spend, 10 minutes with a patient. How are you feeling? What are you doing? I have this or that. I have pain. Now they're not just going straight for the opioids. They're just not. It's almost against protocol. It's not something that we do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still
But
choosing other drugs.
Damage has already been done.
Right.
The damage has been done, but now we're sending them straight to the gabapentin
Which
or the antidepressants.
Yeah, which already is a problem. I know now that people going into detox, if you get tested positive for benzos, it's a whole nother protocol. You get booted. They don't like that, and it's like, well, where did you get them? Someone's giving these kids these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The gabapentins, it's the new.
It's the new high, I
It's
guess
the
I
new
heard
high.
someone
It's
told
the
me.
new high. They're eating them like candy, but yet they're giving it to them like candy, and no one's saying anything. And these are facilities that you bring your children and your loved ones to think that they're going to help. And it's really funny because they introduced Suboxones. Okay, so they introduced Suboxones to the addiction world. Everybody's like, oh, this is great.
But do they really know what it is?
They do not know what it is. But yet, you mention cannabis as a part of recovery.
Absolutely.
From all the way down. They're refusing to see it. And I think that basically, the main problem with cannabis is that people just automatically think that you smoke it.
Well, that's not true. And
At
that
all.
is
It's
and the
not
other
true,
thing
right.
is, I have a lot of patients that come in. Probably 90% of my patients come in and say, they sit down in the chair and they say, I don't want to get high. I want to use something to help with my pain or with my anxiety, but I just don't want to get high. And fortunately now, there's a lot of products available where you don't have those intoxicating effects. And they're very effective. So we have something called THCA, which is non-intoxicating, and it's a very strong COX-2 inhibitor, which is a very strong anti-inflammatory. So we have patients using it for digestive issues,
Mood elevation,
headaches. It really helps. It's not a border for migraines, but it's like a prophylaxis. So they take small doses of it every day. And the interesting thing is, you need less of the THCA than you would the THC, which is the intoxicating.
And the
part of the plant.
THCA is the raw plant. So it's before it's actually started to cure or to become decarboxylated. So it's before it changes.
Say that 5 times.
Yeah.
Decarboxylation.
And then, you sit there.
What am I doing?
And
No, I'm looking at your ring.
and
Hello.
you sit there and you think that people that suffer migraines, they take Furosemide.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I used to take
Okay? You're going to take ibuprofen just to be on the safe side, because maybe Furosemide's a little bit too wild for you.
those. And then you're going to drink caffeine on top of
So
it.
no,
And maybe a
so-
little sugar.
But
and then-
yet, it's known to cause liver problems. If you take ibuprofen for
Stroke, heart disease,
Yeah.
heart attack,
and people suffer from these things,
stomach bleeding.
yeah,
Yes.
gastrointestinal bleeding.
Which one is it?
and that's
Ibuprofen
ibuprofen.
for if you have a glass of wine with it?
So there's
Actually,
a lot of
Tylenol is liver.
Tylenol. because-
Tylenol will kill you.
Your
Liver
liver.
damage.
But yet, no one has a problem with subscribing that.
It's right on the
Is
shelf
there-
for you to grab.
here's-
and-
Yeah.
And over the counter does not mean it's safe.
Right.
It's still a medication. It's still altering your body, cells in your body. It's changing, and it has a lot of side effects. In fact, gosh, there's probably 30 different side effects that are so offensive. If anybody read the side effects, they wouldn't even take an ibuprofen. So it seems like a benign drug, but it's not. And it's definitely not when you're using it every single day.
To manage a chronic pain.
Exactly. Now, I'm just going to bring in cannabis here. And the reason why I want to bring it in when we talk about different disease processes and when we're going to talk about addiction and we talk about people that want to detox, what do they look like when they come in? They're malnourished,
Yeah.
right?
They're
They have low self-esteem. They're so tired that they can't sleep. They're anxious. They have panic disorders, right? They are completely unhealthy.
tremors, some
Shaking, tremors.
Yeah.
Their bodies are fried.
Yeah.
How could cannabis help more than anything else? Because of the cannabis plant itself and what it's composed of. Cannabinoids, I call them plant vitamins, right, which is beneficial for our bodies. Terpenes, which is found as the aroma that you see in a lot of fruits. Okay?
And it's very therapeutic.
Antioxidants. It's a neuroprotectant. So if we think of all these different systems in the person's body that is coming off of opioids, or even trying to manage symptoms, is each of these cannabinoids contributes to benefit our bodies in some way. And the reason why is because we all have a system. It's called the endocannabinoid system. I call it the mother regulator, the motherboard, the head honcho that regulates all of the other systems in our bodies. So imagine an umbrella, endocannabinoid system, all down is digestive system, respiratory system, immune system, cardiovascular system, reproductive system, right? And if this system controls every aspect of our body, and it's called the endocannabinoid system, our bodies make endocannabinoids, endogenous cannabinoids. THC molecule looks identical to a molecule that our body makes, which is called anandamide. So you have a structure, THC anandamide, plant cannabinoid, endocannabinoid, fitting into a receptor to communicate to our bodies to restore it back to balance. That is powerful. So if you have a plant profile looking at the different cannabinoids, each specific cannabinoid and terpene can actually work on a system in our body to bring it back to balance. That's why taking cannabis, using it as a tool for coming off of medications is so powerful, because it not only works on the brain, but it works on all other body systems. And it just requires you working with the right people to teach you how to do it. Someone to hold your hand.
And no other drug.
A green nurse.
Yes. And no other drug does that.
There is no other
with
drug.
no side effects.
There is
With
no other
side effects, no danger.
With no dangerous side effects.
The part that I love about the cannabis is that it's the intelligence of the plant. Retrograde signaling. Hello, hello. It communicates with our body. There is nothing else out there that does that. That is the power of this plant. It not only works on one thing, but it works on multiple things at the same time. So say I'm working with a patient on chronic pain. Well, the chronic pain patient also has issues with digestion, has issues with anxiety, has issues with sleep. So I start to work on this one problem or this issue. What happens is the other cannabinoids start to do their thing too, and before you know it, all the other problems start to melt away. And what it is it's really connecting with the patient, asking them what is important, and working with them together with a shared decision model to help them reach the goal that they're looking for.
And when you think about people that are trying to get off opioids, and then they'll give them other things. Now, oftentimes they're in pain, and they're going to give them a gabapentin. And yet, cannabis can help to control the pain. They may give them something for the nausea. That has side effects. It can cause heart issues. Cannabis has been proven to help with nausea. They may give them a benzodiazepine. Maybe they're very anxious or they can't sleep, so they give them an Ambien, which we know the side effect profile for that. Well, cannabis can help with sleeping. It can help with anxiety. It can help with all of these things. Antidepressants. Cannabis is a mood elevator without the sexual dysfunction. And without your brain changing and becoming, there's so many different ways to use it. So we don't often recommend smoking because we don't know. The studies are inconclusive at this point, but there are ways to take it with oils. You can use topicals, edibles.
Yeah,
There's-
tinctures, creams, salves, lotions, soaps,
There's
shampoos,
bath
bath bombs,
to
all different
relax.
types of tinctures, suppositories, vaginal, rectal, right? I mean, it's amazing. I've had some people that have put it like literally in the mucosa of their nose, you know, for certain conditions. I mean,
And it
multiple
works.
ways. Sprays,
And I know that
inhalers.
a lot of people have a problem with the gummy in the cooking because they think of the children. So one day I seen something posted on Facebook about the gummy bar. They have like a little bar, I guess. And because I'm thinking gummy bears, I'm like thinking like little teddy bears.
Oh, they make those.
Do they? Because
Yes.
that's what I'm thinking. But these were bars, and they were THC. They were marijuana bars. So I'm thinking to myself, wow. And then all of a sudden, I read on, and somebody else posted, well, oh, look at these colors, and the person wrote, see, now there are multiple colors, and they said it's Adderall. It's Adderall in a gummy form that they give children.
They're giving.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't
That's
know.
big pharma, right?
Okay, so
Oh
when
my
I'm just
God.
like, so why is that
Okay.
okay?
And if you look at where kids get drugs when they're starting in middle school or high school, just open up anybody's medicine cabinet and you can find a whole selection.
They have a show from Wahlberg's.
Yeah, it's called If Only. It's a 30-minute movie, and it talks about actually how the specific neighborhood and a couple of families were involved, and how the son went into the medicine cabinet and started taking his mother's pills.
They had a party. You had to fill the bowl with anything that you could get
Get
your
from your
hands
house.
on from your house. And you bring it to the party, they put it in the bowl, and,
And
you
then they
just
just
start
take it like
eating
candy.
Yeah.
Right. So
Now-
Somerville wouldn't show that movie because of that scene.
And one of the boys died. And
One went to detox.
Oh
and
my
while he was
God.
in detox,
yeah, it's a pretty
he
powerful
learned
movie.
of his best friend dying of an overdose, and then it showed actually the funeral scene.
The
afterwards.
mother went to the house and tried to talk because they were neighbors, they were friends, and she's like, listen, my son's in a rehab. That means your son's doing. Don't tell me you're a bad mother about the whole time he was dying upstairs.
We're not gonna let our son be with your son.
Yeah.
She just told him that he was in
And the
detox.
whole time he was overdosing upstairs, and they went out to dinner, and then they came back home and found him.
Oh my God. That's
So I mean, it's
Now, when I started doing research, when we look at the whole opioid epidemic, when you think about health disparities, sometimes certain things can affect certain populations, but with this epidemic, it crosses all barriers.
oh yeah,
So it could be anybody.
it's not
It could be your
discriminatory at
doctor.
all. Yes.
It could be the police officer on the corner. We don't know. We don't know. It could be anybody. And people are really good at hiding it because of that, the stigma that's attached, and people are in denial.
right.
And with cannabis, back to the cannabis, with any medication, it has to be used with care, and there's a responsibility of the person using it to keep it locked up and away from children. The same way they should keep Tylenol locked up and away from children, and you can buy that on the street, any corner pharmacy, in any store, in any market.
And it's crazy though too, because if your child gets a hold of your Suboxone or your methadone, that baby's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Where
Well,
you
cannabis
know,
is going to be very uncomfortable
yeah,
if they take it,
Yes.
but they're not going to
right,
die.
But they're not going
That's
to
a fact.
die from it.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
See,
it's
a lot
basically,
of
it's,
people don't believe that.
well,
a lot
it's-
of people do believe that you can overdose on.
well, you can't because of how the cannabis plant works in the body and how the receptors are and where they are in the body. It cannot stop breathing
So
or stop your heart.
the way that the
breathing.
opioids work, they're working on mu receptors, which are in the brain stem. So when you take too much, it shuts down. That's the breathing center.
Right.
Well, cannabis works with CB1 and 2 receptors, and there are no CB1 receptors in the
No
brain
brain
stem,
stem.
and no recorded death has ever happened in history that we know of
Right.
from cannabis. So you can take a lot and maybe they'll get sick and they'll throw up and they feel like they're going to die.
But they
And
won't
I've
die.
heard some stories they just didn't know,
Right,
And they took too much.
right.
but you're not going to die.
Right, and I think, you know, I think that it's really important also because, you know, through the good, the bad, and the ugly of recovery, you know, we've come to find out in the long term that everybody's recovery is not the same.
Well, it can't be the same,
It's
okay?
not the
It's called a personal recovery. When you are
Yes.
creating your recovery, you're creating a lifestyle. You're creating your program. My program and your program will never be the same.
Right.
And that's okay. It's because we're unique. Recovery programs need to be personalized because the chance of success is if you create a care plan or a recovery program with the patient, creating goals, they're most likely going to do it,
Right.
right? Instead of telling them.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
As far as opioids, I think that you know that my son died 9 years ago. He had a motorcycle accident and they prescribed OxyContin. Now, when I look back and I read about OxyContin, wasn't originally for people that were dying of cancer?
Well, oxycodone, okay, so
Right, it's a
oxycodone was
Percocet.
short
Right.
acting, and then OxyContin is long acting.
Right.
So they prescribe.
No, I thought that it was originally made for patients that were terminally ill.
Chronic, yeah.
Well, the efficacy has not been shown to be over long-term use. It was not meant to be used
Long term.
long-term, and somehow pain became the sixth vital sign. And all of a sudden, prescribers were really pushed to control people's pain. And how can we do that? With opiates. So here, the narcotics started, then they started writing and writing and writing.
And that's when the nurses, didn't they make up the smiley faces?
Yeah,
Like you
scale of
would-
0 to 10.
Like you,
1
you
to
would-
10.
yeah, you would go in
Right.
and that's how they would be like, okay.
But that's still important to measure that,
Yes.
right? But the first choice should not be an opioid,
Right.
ever.
Ever.
Because there are so many different ways to manage pain.
And post-surgically, for short-term, 1 or 2 days, 3 days, that's it. But after that, patients shouldn't be on it. And they're now giving gabapentin right after surgery, in addition to the opioids. So they're starting something that's going to turn out very bad.
I think it hasn't started, it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Right. Is this new though with the gabapentins after the surgery with
Well, they're looking
the
to
opiate?
decrease writing the scripts for opioids. So they're looking for anything else that they can write that's going to manage pain so they don't have to increase.
And the other thing that we're
Narcotics.
really pushing too, what I learned through research is people with chronic pain are much more likely to have anxiety and depression. And which one started first, we don't know. You know, the chicken or the egg, which one? But we're not assessing patients. Patients that have pain, because we are biopsychosocial spiritual beings, we need to address not just the physical pain, but all of the other things that go with it. So oftentimes patients, if they're properly diagnosed and assessed for depression and anxiety, they can be treated for that with cognitive behavior therapy and help people to manage their pain mentally as well. Their outcomes are so much better, and they use a lot less medications for pain when they're treated for both.
I don't understand too is that you use an opiate gabapentin to treat pain, but yet if you don't take it, it causes you pain. So what pain is real and what pain is that? Because I know somebody. They got it all. They've had the 20 back surgeries, this and that, and it's like, oh, but they suffer, and I'm like, do they suffer when they don't take the medication, or do they suffer
Because they're taking the medication.
because of the medication? Because I'm like, I think it's because of the medication that that the pain is that intense. Is because once you take that pill, you're like, oh, because that's what it does to you. it's the crave, of it. And once your body gets it, it's like, okay, we can sit here now for a little bit.
And when people realize they don't have medication on board, that can cause anxiety. And when people get anxious and tense, it exacerbates their pain. So it's kind of like this vicious cycle. And
And then you're not sleeping, so then you have what? Then you're not getting any restorative sleep, which contributes to the anxiety, which contributes to the pain. And then no sleep, and you're anxious, you can't eat. I mean, it's, before you know it, you're circling the drain.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And you're looking for something more. And then they add.
Yes.
And then we'll add to that. And we'll give you that.
And
and not
CBD.
one person seems to mind.
No, because they don't know what is it. What are you to know? If you're not a medical, even the medical professionals, they can't know everything. We're practicing medicine. It's called a practice because that's what we do. We practice, and everybody's different. So nothing works the same on everybody. Even with a pharmaceutical, you can prescribe 5 milligrams to this person or 10 milligrams twice a day of something, but it may not work for you. So they'll try something different. So it's the same thing. It's a lot of trial and error. And the same thing happens with cannabis with people. It's trial and error. But research has shown that CBD, which is non-intoxicating, is neuroprotectant as well as the other cannabinoids. But it also helps to reduce the cravings for people that are addicted.
Yes.
And I'm a believer in that. I have somebody very, very dear to me, failed attempts, one after the other, after the other, after the other. It was going to be either way. It was either going to be jail or it was going to be death. There was no other option for this person. Started doing a Suboxone clinic with the gabapentin. All of a sudden now they're going to treat the mental aspect of it, so they're going to give him all kinds of medication for that. This person gained 70 pounds, would not leave, can't get up, can't do this, depressed, this, all kinds of stuff, all in one. And I'm like, that was just like you just got up. I'm like, my God.
But there's nothing else is being addressed.
Went to the Medwell doctor, talked great lengths. I went with them and we talked in great lengths of how she was going to help him, because we're at the end of our road. I'm like, I don't want a person to die, and I don't want this person to go to prison either.
Right.
He started, but he does the oil. He doesn't smoke it. He does the oil. He does like a couple of other things and stuff like that. He's been in recovery since September. Longest he's ever been, like his whole entire life. Yeah. Is he perfect? No, he's not. But
I don't know anyone that is perfect.
Right, but that edge is gone. That
because his body is getting what it needs from the plant.
He can sleep, and it's so and they try like, okay, well you get this and and then you have the and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, that's like way too much information in my mind. I'm like, how do you do it? Because you just gotta even it out. And then when me and Joanne came up to Revolution and then we met you guys, I'm like, oh my God, they have nurses. I'm like, because we would have been like right on you, because we were at a private physician. We're grabbing at straws, because then it's like, I know so many people that you have your recovery from your family, and it's like just grabbing at straws. We're grabbing. We're looking for any way, anywhere, anyhow.
Absolutely. I mean, some people can just be abstinent to all.
Yeah, but that's okay. But when you look at the studies of what they've shown, people in recovery, what is the percentage of abstinence? Like a success rate within like 9%?
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, it's very low.
Wow.
So
I thought it would be higher than that.
No, complete abstinence only. I think it's less than 10% of people that are entering in recovery that completely abstain from all medication.
Wow.
Right.
So
that's
I
why
happen
we
to know a
have
miracle.
methadone, we have Vivitrol, we have Suboxone, we have medical marijuana, which at the beginning we were kind of little reluctant to have you on the show because of the stigma that's involved with actually, cannabis. And the thing is that I said, well, it's someone's recovery.
It is
And-
someone's
and
It is
recovery.
someone's
I really believe
recovery.
that we should have you on. It doesn't matter how anybody feels about it.
It's a-
We're here to.
I rave you guys from the rooftops solely because I know because of my loved one,
Yeah.
I tried everything in the book and that worked for him. Not saying it's going to work for everybody,
Everybody,
but that
right.
worked for him. And don't you dare look at him like he has 5 heads because that's what he chose to do. And going through probation, court systems, they accepted it because he had
A
a
card.
medical card.
That's important.
And at the very end, they were like, "We'll see you later." Like, I can't believe this kid just like all of a sudden. It was like the strangest thing. It was the strangest thing, but it worked.
It worked.
As long as it works, as long
Yeah,
as it keeps
and it's,
people
you
away
know,
from
it's the
opioids.
program of
and anybody
recovery.
that knocks it, I'm gonna be like, "No, you know, I don't believe what you're saying to me." And
Well, here it is
I'm
belief.
sure you deal with this every day.
Well,
I'm sure.
belief, think about this. Belief, where do we get belief from? It's outside of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're always going to hear it from someone else. What is a truth? Truth can be experienced. Our truth can constantly change. Our beliefs can change. What is a miracle? A miracle is a change of perception. And that's all I'm looking is for people just to not close the door on it. Don't slam the door. You don't have to walk through the door, but just take a peek.
That's right.
Just take a peek inside and open your mind, because you don't know, you never know if you or a loved one might need this someday.
Right. So
And-
that's why we have you on the show.
yes,
Because
because
we
it's
want people
open,
to have open
right?
minds about cannabis. And could you tell us about how many types? There's so many different plants that they don't even know of. They only think of it as, oh, it's weed, or
You smoke it.
It's a-
You
I'm
know,
gonna
we're
buy
gonna
it
go
and
hang
smoke
under
it.
the tree and go
between
get
smoking
high.
it. But like you said, there's so many ways. But how many plants are there?
Oh my God! If you go to Leafly, there's so many different strains. But what we actually look for is we look at a cannabinoid profile and terpene profile. And if there isn't a terpene profile, we like to know what it smells like, because the terpenes and the cannabinoids definitely contribute to the medicinal effect that you're looking for specific conditions. And they're constantly coming up with new ones.
No, when someone comes to you for, like, you do a consultation first, what are the steps that, like, say I came to you and asked you to help me, what would be the steps that you would take with me to try to figure out what was going on with me?
So what I initially do is I have people do an intake form, and the intake form consists of not only your past medical history, but current symptoms, medications, supplements, any alternatives you may be doing. What do you lifestyle questions are
You
really,
mean like
really
write down the
important.
vitamins and things?
Oh, I have the
Yeah.
intake form is very extensive, and the reason why is because it's our bodies, and I know what it means to be sick, and I know what it means to feel good, and I don't want anyone to have to suffer any longer than I did. So I always want to ask the very, very important specific questions, because then after I look at all of that, I'll ask them, what's important to you and how do you want to feel? Let's talk about your day. Let's talk about what you eat, what you drink, because the goal is to have people take the least amount of medicine to the highest medicinal benefit. Okay, we want to medicate people to the point below the threshold of intoxication. It's not about getting high. It's about feeling good. And when you're sick and you feel horrible, the last thing you want to do is to put something else in your body that could make you feel worse. So basically, it's a lot of asking of questions and me listening and me, saying to the person, well, let's talk about your sleep. How do you sleep at night? What time do you go to bed? Do you, if someone says, oh, I have trouble with sleeping, well, let's talk about sleep and what it means to you and what do you do and what do you take and what do you, and let's go, do you have difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep? Do you have nightmares? Do you have sleep apnea? Right? So we go through all of that, and then we can figure out, based on how you answer those questions, what might be something good for you to choose. And we do it together. What do you feel comfortable with? What is your day like?
We look at diet. If they're in pain, are they eating foods that are inflammatory that's going to add to the pain? Are they just eating sugar and processed foods all day? That can seriously contribute to inflammation.
Right.
So somebody in pain or digestive issues or headaches or fogginess, food is a huge contributor to that. So we look at the whole thing. We look at the patient's medication list. We look at their medical record.
Oh God, medication list on top of it.
Yeah.
Think about this, the medicines, there's so many medicines that patients are on that they don't even know that are depleting their bodies of nutrients.
Yes.
Right.
Drug nutrient depletion is huge.
Well, look what methadone does to you. That alone, I couldn't even imagine signing the piece of paper to take it, because that's real scary. I mean, you'd go to the Dunkin' Donuts and they're doing like 13 sugars in their coffee and no one's saying anything. I'm like, that's a lot
Because a
of
lot of them
sugar.
don't know why they're doing 13 sugars. They're
Right.
not educated about, they just
Of
came
what's
out of a methadone
happening.
clinic and now they need to,
Right.
to
They need natural sugar. Right?
Well,
Fruits
just
and
pull up the
vegetables.
bottle of ibuprofen that's off the shelf. Pull up drugs.com and look at the side effect profile on that drug alone. So imagine something that needs a prescription that's very limited to certain doctors that have that.
Right.
And
knowledge is power.
And you know, with cannabis, I think a lack of education adds to the stigma. And once people get to know and they start to hear the truth about it, not all of this reefer madness propaganda, but when they start, and like myself, that was me.
Right, 'cause
And
you
here
were,
I am.
You were looking for the camera.
I was looking for the camera thinking, this is my kids playing
So
a
it
joke
was a
on me.
miracle, Dale, you changed your mind.
Right.
Well-
When I saw I never got so many hugs in my life from patients where they just felt like, thank you, you've given me hope. Thank you for getting me off this drug. Thank you for, I want to come off of this. Never saw so many patients in my life in primary care because they just weren't coming off drugs. They were given more and more, and I want a refill, and very demanding. They think that's what they need. If we've added depression screening, because people with pain have often, like I said, have depression. And the number of people that are on antidepressants that are still depressed, that screen high for depression, you wouldn't believe. At least 80% of our patients that we've screened already. So if the antidepressants aren't working, why are they still on them?
Right.
And I thought about that from my own perspective of being scared of coming off of medication. It's like the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. That's kind of what I was thinking. So I know what I was taking
'Cause you don't
didn't
wanna
make
be
me
in that
feel
pain,
good,
right.
but I was afraid if I came off of it, then what? Okay, so it's fear. And if you're doing it, and if you have to be able to talk to your provider, you have to have those conversations, and it's about you,
That's
right?
why I
There's
think
no
what
one
you
more
guys do is
important than
amazing.
you.
Right.
And being able to advocate for yourself is loving yourself. And we want to teach patients how to advocate for themselves. Life is too short.
But don't you think that every time you go into physician's office that not everybody is truthful about everything that's going on in their bodies anyway?
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to, sometimes if they're not comfortable, the provider-patient relationship is ruined because they're afraid, is this doctor going to judge me?
Right. I don't know if I would go into my private physician and be like, oh, by the way, I smoke marijuana, because I would.
Then I'd be
I
afraid
would-
they're going to put marijuana use disorder on my
Yes.
chart.
In red flag me.
Yes.
And not only that, think different of me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary, because like you said, if you can't be honest, to love yourself, and you guys are opposed to recreational.
No, I am not opposed to recreational.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I look at it as a choice.
Okay.
And I'll explain. Recreational serves a purpose for some people, and that is absolutely fine. Do I enjoy recreational every now and then? Absolutely, and I'm not ashamed of it. I don't like to drink. I like to feel good. I like to wake up feeling good. I like to work. I enjoy my life. And other things, I choose not to do other things because it doesn't feel good. So with recreational, there's a learning curve. And one of the things I always tell people, there's 3 ways to use cannabis: medically, recreationally, and irresponsibly. And it all comes down to choice. You can choose. And the more people learn about the plant and cannabis and learn about their bodies, they can choose an experience. Why is it that certain athletes are using cannabis to work out? Why are certain, it's an experience. And it's not a bad experience, it's just a different way of looking at it. Just like, it's only weird if you make it weird.
Do you know what I was thinking?
Right?
Yeah, you know what I was thinking too, is that, you know, through opiates, it's not a choice after
It's
a
not.
while because it attacks your body and that you need it, where you get that concept in your mind that it's not a choice, it's not a choice. And then all of a sudden you go onto the cannabis and someone looks at you and says, oh, it's a choice. And you're like, oh no, they just told me that it wasn't a choice. You know, that after a couple of times, but they also have to realize that we're not talking about the same
Yeah.
thing at all.
Yeah. And it was interesting too, is I've had a couple of patients that are younger kids that have come to me that have said to me, listen, I've been doing cannabis for a long time and they show me what they're doing and it's not working for me and I don't understand why. And I look at them like, you're doing too much. Once I taught them how to cut back on their cannabis use and I told them little tweaks here and there, they couldn't believe that they were saving over $300 a month because they learned about their plant, they learned about their body, they were able to use it medically for what they wanted to use it for, and then they understood the concept if they wanted to use it recreationally. That is what it means to use cannabis safely. That's what it means, harm reduction, side effect mitigation, teaching. If you can't make a decision, educated decision, if you're not educated,
Absolutely.
right?
That's why I was so intrigued by what you were telling me at Revolution, and I had to have you come.
Oh,
We've been
thanks.
talking about it. And I said, now's the time. We're just
Yeah.
going to go and have them come in
Well,
and explain.
there's a
Because
couple.
now we're, the whole state is on the verge of having recreational marijuana available, even though it was stopped again yesterday. It's going to come through.
Well,
It's
here-
It's going to
they're
come
it's-
through.
There is,
And
isn't
it's
there
really
already having
incumbent-
one? They already have one license out with somebody who's not around here at all.
But they're still not able to sell yet.
But
even though
they-
they have a license.
There's a very strong what do you call it, the gray market. So it's really growing now. And it's really incumbent upon every town to educate, whether you banned adult use in your recreation dispensaries opening or not. Everybody should be educated.
And here's the next with the education. If a town is approved, like when you do the voting, if you look back, if a town's approved of medical when they voted, and then now they've disapproved or banned recreational, what that shows me is they don't have the knowledge or the education to make the choice. Because you wouldn't make that decision. It's an uneducated decision
Right.
because they don't have the education. And it's been approved. It's not going away. And what is our responsibility as a community, as a parent, as a medical provider, as a teacher, as a citizen, is to know. It's important for us to be educated, safety, harm reduction, side effect mitigation, because it's not going away. And it's not a bad thing that it's not going away.
Right.
Its time has come.
It's sad because everybody's been conditioned all these years of it being bad.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so funny that the liquor stores, 3 on every block. No one says
Well, there's no such
anything.
thing as a medical liquor license,
Right.
right? So, honestly, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
Well, we do have 3 medical marijuana facilities in Somerville.
Which I
We
think is
have-
great.
We know where 2 of them
Revolution
are,
East
but we don't know where the other one is.
Is it hiding?
It's hiding.
Well, we do know the one in Davis Square. We do know the one in East Somerville. But I don't know.
I would
the
have loved to
other.
have been somebody in the car driving by, seeing me and Joanne coming out of marijuana facility.
Well,
They must have been like,
Paparazzi. Betsy.
Yeah.
Like you said, we need to get educated.
Yeah.
And they're open to a lot of different things. You know, that's why we went to a homeless court today. And Friday we're at the mental health court.
Yeah.
It's something new. It was refreshing. It restored my faith in the judicial system because I got to the point where I said everybody that goes in never comes out. You know what I mean? It's like it was all negative. When I saw such positive reinforcement for those people that had issues.
Yep.
And they're all, you know, lots of them do have mental health issues in which some of the cannabis would help them.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that's
Anxiety.
absolutely one of the things I wanted to mention too, which I forgot, is that we have a radio show.
Oh.
Dale and I have a radio show that's starting on Wednesday, July 11th,
Yes.
from 8 to 9 p.m. on the Cannabis Radio Network. It will be live. It will also be recorded. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it on the Green Nurse Group page, the Green Nurse page, and the Cannabis Radio Network page. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing patients on. We're going to be having a little camera set up, and we're going to go interview patients. We're going to go into the community, and we're going to have speakers, guests, nurses, doctors, people that use cannabis in the community and incorporated it into their lives, and we're going to bring them on the show to share.
I think that's wonderful.
I do too.
And we're gonna have a
'cause
lot of
it's
education.
Visual. It's visual. People like visual.
Yes.
So I'm
And
like,
people want to
that's
tell
so
their
awesome.
story.
Yeah.
There is something to be said about hearing someone's recovery that is so inspiring.
Yeah.
It's so moving.
I'm gonna have to hook my friend up with you guys, man, because it is an amazing story. You know?
And just to hear
Your
the
story is amazing.
Well, we have
Yes.
someone coming in. So the Cannabis Radio Network is having a big launch for all of it. They're in Linfield line.
Yeah.
But they're having a big, huge launch party on July 14th at the Peabody Marriott, and we're having the American Cannabis Nurses Association. The past president and the current president are going to come. Dale and I are going to be presenting. They will be presenting. We also have a man coming in from Illinois.
Yeah. And
His
with
name
his
is
wife.
and his wife, Darren Stephen Miller. He's a man that was diagnosed with heart and lung cancer and was given a year to live. And him and his wife packed their bag, head to California, and he's still alive, almost 3 years later. So he's flying in, and he's
But
going
he
to tell his
treated
story.
with
He treated
cannabis.
his cancer with cannabis. So, and they get like 1 month to live. Sorry, see ya, go home, right?
Right. Well, our hour is almost over.
It's almost
Wow.
over.
Yes, can you believe
Actually,
that?
it is over.
Oh, we can talk.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, but the thing is, I'm glad you mentioned those things.
I am so
and
glad
I got
that you
so
girls come
involved
on.
in the show that I would have liked to have had you repeat that a few more times so people would know.
Follow us on Facebook, Green Nurse Group.
Well, actually, I think YouTube is still on.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
But yes.
Oh, it's
I
done?
would love to come. Could we come?
Yeah. I'll
Yes.
put you on the guest list.
That would be
I would
great.
love to go in there and see.
Yeah.
It'll be quite an event.
And you said it's on the 14th?
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to get your. Oh, we
Yep.
still on the air?
I'm not quite sure.
Hmm.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Hi,
Write it
everybody. Is
down.
Still on there? Usually we say goodnight and everything. We didn't
Good
get to that
You
point.
didn't even get there.
So
That was
long.
so good.
Farewell.
It was very, what did you think? You spoke for an hour.
It was great.
We
Went
get
by
most
fast.
of everything that we wanted to talk about.
Yep.
And also,
Name,
like
email,
I said,
phone
the
number.
stigma that people do have, and how we were a little reluctant for that, but then we said, you know what? It doesn't matter. Someone's recovery. To be perfectly honest with you.
I'd love to hear the feedback too. It's fun, especially know that people are a little uptight.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Oh,
All of a
these
sudden,
people
I'm
are
sitting there
uptight.
saying, did I take my keys out of the ignition? I was at Judy's house. My car was on for 2 hours. My car died. It's actually a hybrid, and I actually,
Burnt it out.
yeah.
So it's funny, my grandson, he suffers from migraines. He's 12. So we're seeing a neurologist, and I keep going to his pediatrician. I'm sure that they're really sick of seeing me. I am at this point now officially worried about the ibuprofen that he consumes, as well as the Tylenol, because if it's not one, it's the other.
Oh, it's so funny.
Now
I haven't
he-
taken any.
He was born addicted to opiates.
He was?
When he at birth. So and he's had a lot of problems as far because he was born he was in utero, so the whole entire time that he was growing inside that he was being abused with it. And I'm so it's like, okay, now we have migraines now we're suffering migraines. And I'm like so afraid that they're gonna be like, well, he's gonna take it. I'm like, no.
Taking CBD?
No, he's not doing anything at the moment except for ibuprofen and Tylenol. Right. So now we have an appointment to actually go in and find out because they keep thinking it was. I don't know what was happening to him. He couldn't see. His hearing was so keen. He could hear someone chewing.
Yeah, we're not on anymore.
All right. Yeah.
We're outside.
2 doors down.
You won't see it. If you go out there, you'll see there's something else on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not us.
And so we went to the hospital because finally Jimmy's pediatrician was like, listen, when it happens to him, take him to the hospital. Well, what's happening? So I took him to the hospital. The guy's looking at him like, all of a sudden he's like, Jim, where's your pain? He's like, back, spine, up his neck, all the way here and around.
Yeah.
And the guy looks at me, and he's like, I'll be right back. His back, and he's like, I think he's suffering from migraines. I'm like, what? He said the numbness of his fingers, his fingertips are all numb, his feet were going numb,
Oh, man.
and he just, no energy, very depressed. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, I don't like 12. That's what I kept saying, I don't like 12.
Are you the physician that gives cards?
No, I am a nurse practitioner that gives that.
Oh, well, my son, I would like to have my son, I told him, I said, I think it's time that you maybe should get yourself a marijuana.
I think it's great for people.
Good job, sweetie.
I'm afraid to use,
People are worried because of their jobs too,
right, I'm
No
afraid
job
to use
protections
the
without-
oil the vape.
Oh, yeah.
I'm afraid to use that because I'm afraid that I'll just use it all the time, that I'll abuse it.
Oh. I don't like the vapes because we don't know what they're cut with.
Right.
Or what we were talking to a gentleman today who said that the apparatus itself has metals that when heated, then we inhale them, they're not healthy for our lungs. And we don't know, they reduce this oil down to a very concentrated form, and what they cut it with, we don't, some
The
people cut
polyglycine.
polyethylene, PEG, polyethylene glycol, when you heat that, it turns into formaldehyde.
Holy shit.
So when you turn on that little mechanism and inhale, that's heating it, so now you're inhaling formaldehyde. So, we just can't trust those, who's making those yet. I think over time, hopefully they'll get safer,
Yeah.
And find an alternative way,
I'm not going
but I don't
down.
give that to my clients ever. And a lot of people say they inhale it and it makes them cough because it burns their throat.
Yep.
Well, I wonder why,
Okay.
you know?
You know something? Who is Kimberly Everett?
Right.
Because if she was standing here, I think I don't know what I would probably have to hug her because she's just so awesome. Okay, she sent me this email.
I have to hug her because she's ugly.
Yeah, I'm like maybe I could squeeze the